Hey guys, it's Brian back. I exist. I am alive in the monastery. I'd be live if you were watching this now, but nobody is because it's not being broadcast. And we are smoking the what is this? Is it the Añejo? What did I say? It was 40, 48, 47, something like that.
I think you said it was
7 by 48.
47.
Or was it 47? Hold on, I can tell you in a second. 7 by 48. So it's the Reserva number 48. I was never that good about keeping all the names straight, except for the 77, aka the Shark. So there you go. Walt's
That
like, what's up?
wasn't
Go
that the
ahead.
only one with a Cameroon wrapper? Didn't one of
No,
them have a Cameroon wrapper and
well they have
signify
they
something
have a
special?
natural version of the Shark. The regular line I think is it's all the whatchamacallit, the Connecticut shade aged in, was it some sort of barrels. Man, we as always, Jerry would be proud. We did really not a lot of research into this. It was pretty much an hour of deciding or finding out which cigar we both had in our humidor so we could do this.
And it was a lot of back and forth messages. Do you have this one? No. Do you have that one? No. Do you have this one? For about an hour. So that was good.
I have a surprising number of these, so I think I have one of every size, and I don't know how old yours is, but mine's been sitting in my humidor for probably 2 years, something like that.
I think mine's about the same. I couldn't even tell you the last time I bought one, but this one's been sitting. It's had to have been in there for at least 2 years. It's been at least that long since I've even seen them in a shop.
Oh yeah, I usually buy a few whenever they come out, just because I smoke some when they come out and buy a few, to put away, and with the idea that I'll smoke the old ones and age the new ones or something like that. Not really well organized because I haven't bothered to put dates on any of the bands, so I mean I couldn't tell you exactly when I got this. I don't know about yours, but I actually noticed there's a neat little flaw in mine. It's got like somebody took a bite out of the edge of the wrapper, so it's got whoop, like that little U thing on the edge, and it's actually pretty toothy on mine.
Yeah, mine's the
Dark.
same way. I'm not seeing any flaws. It's a little rough looking, but all in all, it looks fairly good. I was kind of surprised. For a long time there was back when the forums were really big. One of the hot topics was, you know, are you going to buy an anejo and find mold underneath it because it's got these cedar sleeves on there. And I was kind of curious. When I pop this thing off, am I going to have a little mold under there? Because obviously it's kind of humid, it's dark. So, but in this case, no mold. So that's a real big plus.
Good, good. Yeah, I've run into it. I was actually keeping this in a humidor that was running. It's been running around 65% consistently, more or less. It gets a little more humid, a little less, but it's been about 65. So this is a little drier than I would normally smoke it right out of the shop, because most shops are running 70, 72 or whatever. So, and I think that helped prevent anything like that from forming. But I've definitely seen that where they get kind of moldy under the cedar sleeve, and I've actually just smoked them. I mean, I think you're not supposed to. I don't know, it could be dangerous or something like that. I just burned it. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean,
I figure fire would be the right agent to purify, right? It should be good.
yeah, it's scrape or brush off as much as I can, and then light it up. But these cigars, where they come out twice a year. In your area,
Yeah,
do you see much
Father's
price
Day.
gouging going on?
What's that?
In your area, do you see much price gouging going on?
Uh, I see. I do see that. There's one shop that has them year round. That I don't think there's a rare Fuente in there that isn't $30 or something like that. We've got a 23% tobacco tax here. You're blessed with having, I don't think, anything in Pennsylvania, at least not right now. I mean, aside from like S chip and crap like that. So it's going to run a little higher than MSRP, but the place I'm looking at online is selling it for around 14.
Okay.
They don't actually have them in stock, so it's not too bad. I think that's that's probably within a few bucks of what they're supposed to be. It might be dead on MSRP, to be honest. So,
Well, that actually sounds pretty close. Because I don't think they're, they're real high.
it surprised the hell out of people, that don't know when they go out and they buy the Opus for $20 a stick. That some of those were like $8-9 cigars. I mean, seriously, like the smallest ones, the Perfection Number 5. I don't have the exact figure, but I mean, that Opus is like it's under $10. I think maybe it's gone up with the S chip, but yeah, originally, man, people are blowing just tons of money on that. I see some markup. It's usually not too bad in the area. There's a few places that do mark them way the hell up. So yeah, well, what are you gonna do? I just don't buy there, and they usually have them. So if I ever needed one really bad for some reason, I know where I could get it.
Cool. So, like the other Herfing Heads videos, I guess we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about the cigar, veer off topic, discuss some other stuff, come back to the cigar, and kind of bounce back and forth. And we'll sort of give you the whole train wreck experience of, disorganized and, no set topics. So, a lot of bouncing around.
Actually, I think we should spend an entire 15-minute segment just talking about the process of doing these videos, because that's
the process of having no process.
Just the process of doing this, just how we organize it, how we're shooting it. I always find it funny when people are talking about, they get in their videos and they start going on and on and on about this, that, and the other thing about the, get on the cigar. So, and I'm doing it right now. So anyway, how's yours tasting?
It's got a little bit of a bite to it. It's got a little bit of a chocolatey flavor that's kind of cool, but no real explosive flavors. At this point, it's still really early, but it's got some interesting nuances. I'm liking that chocolate flavor.
I'm getting that I'm getting this same kind of chocolate thing. It's kind of it's not creamy, but it has kind of a feel and a sweetness that is a little reminiscent of caramel, but it's not really caramel. It's like a syrup type of deal, which is. I enjoy it. It's not, it's nothing. These añejos in the past historically have never been something that just blow my mind, but they're fun. They're kind of they're an interesting, change of pace, and it's kind of celebrates whatever Father's Day or Christmas or whenever they come out. So it's kind of neat for that reason.
Yeah, they're kind of fun and interesting. I'm not a real big Opus X smoker. I've had handful of them in the humidor usually, but they're not something that really excite me. The Anejos, on the other hand, I do kind of look forward to smoking those, when the occasion pops up.
Yeah, that's what I like to do when they come in, and people who follow me on Twitter at Brian Hewitt. Anyway, I like to pair it with Grand Marnier, which is kind of a fun thing to do. It's something that a local guy named Rich, who goes by Booty Rock on Twitter when he's on there, turned me on to. So I do that whenever they come out. It's kind of a little bit of a tradition, sort of. It's kind of an informal deal, but I like to call the pairing the Booty Rockefeller because he came up with it, and it's kind of the high end combination of stuff. So, but so
that works. I like it.
Yeah, the Booty Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little off. It was kind of doing a runner, but it's corrected for me. So, yeah, I'm a little ways into it already. But
mine looks pretty good. The ash is nice and light. It's holding a really firm shape. It's got kind of a powdery appearance. It kind of looks like a slight little breeze would sort of make it go poof. But it looks good. I like it. It's performing pretty good.
Mine almost has a cartoonish type of stylized. It looks like somebody chiseled out the little lines across the ash. It looks really solid. It looks pretty nice. A little bit of, it's not quite salt and pepper, but there's a little bit on one side. Looks like that's the side that's burning faster. So the way this was resting, it's possible that the top side of it was a little drier than the bottom, possibly. Just looking at the ash, but yeah. Got to be better about rotating cigars and such.
Well, we're off to a good start with the cigar, so let's kind of dive into our first discussion topic. And this is one that I was thinking about earlier on, and I thought maybe we could bounce back and forth with it. And the the topic sort of revolves around local cigar shops, and how much variety do you feel is necessary within a cigar shop? What are the staples? What are some of the smaller, lesser known boutique brands, if you will, that are a safe bet to carry? What do you think a cigar shop should have?
I was talking about like specific cigars. Well, I mean, every shop's got to have their Fuentes. They've got to have some of the general products and the Altadas products. I think because there's a clientele that lives on that basically. I you know, cause, yeah, a cigar shop doesn't have to necessarily be packed, but I love it when they aren't. When they just got far too much crap. It's like this stuff stuck under here and up there, and you walk in, and every now and then you find something that God knows how old it is. I love shops like that, but that's not necessary. I mean, you need a good selection. I mean, that brings people in. Nothing kills a shop faster than letting the shelves start to get empty. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, if you come in and you think, well, there's not a really good chance that they're going to have a lot of the things I'm looking for, you're probably not going to go in. But you need to have the core stuff. Probably doesn't hurt to have Padron and a bunch of Pepin stuff. And whether or not he's still officially boutique, is kind of hard to call. So you need the bigger names, the bigger boutiques, and it helps to have something quirky. I think that nobody else has. Like some shops around here, for example, they carry the Monte Pascual. That's how you pronounce it, apparently. It's a Brazilian Puro. So, I mean, the shops that have that, it's like, well, that's a reason I'm going to come in there. And if you're well stocked with other things, then, I'm going to come in there. I'm going to pick up some other stuff, too. So, I don't think there's, not really a retailer here, so I don't know all the business end of things. But I don't think you have to be just jam-packed with stuff, but you got to carry some staples. You got to carry some better-known boutiques, and you need a few things, a few, like, attention grabbers, things that people aren't going to get elsewhere. You really need that, I think, to bring people in. It's like, I'm the only shop that has this. Okay, well, I got to make a stop there, that sort of thing. What do you think?
I think that you have to have your general and your Altadas, the stuff that you see in magazines constantly. The stuff that the average cigar smoker is going to walk into a shop looking for. Your boutique-ish brands like Don Pepin, things like that are a major plus. And yeah, I definitely agree with having the hook. You have to have something different that no one else has. Something that's going to drive people to your shop because you're the only one that has it. And if you have that, along with the staples and a couple of other interesting things, you've got a customer loading up both hands with cigars as they're walking up to the register.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was pretty easy. I think that it's kind of a it's kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, I've heard studies where they do things like they check out not studies, but a friend of mine was talking when he was in sales in a particular line of business. Part of what their approach was, some big name store, I'm not even sure if they're still around anymore, but was just going with selection, just having crazy selection of stuff because it's one of those things like people go to Walmart. Well, it's cheap, yeah, but it's also because they have everything under the sun. So, I mean, that helps too. So your big, the ones that are catalogs that for you are local stores or, somewhat local stores, that's another gimmick to have. If you have everything under the sun, that's also a great way to go, I guess. But I mean, that's not really practically possible for a lot of people.
What do you think about variety within a line? For example, there's one shop that I go to in the area. And the customers always say, well, our local shop isn't as big as the store down the street, and they may have more cigars in general, but it's all the same line. They have 7 different Padron 2000s or Padron 1000 series, different sizes or whatever. But here in this shop we have only 1 or 2 sizes of 50 different brands. What do you think about something like that? Do you think it's necessary to have all the facings of a particular line, or can you stick to having just 2 sizes?
I think what I've seen it done in a number of places. A lot of places around here, because space is, there's a ton of good cigars out there. And space is, it's at a premium. So Well, I've seen a lot of people do that where, the really good sellers, maybe you have all of the entire line, but stuff that sells but not as well, they carry one or two sizes that they like the best, and it works. I mean, that works. People, unless you're really super picky about something, I mean, I'll walk in and I like the biggest Art Deco that's made, but I may walk into a place, and if they only carry the coffee break size or something like that, I'll probably buy it if I'm in the mood for an Art Deco. So that's the thing. You don't have to have everything, and a lot of shops around here don't. There's a few that do, and I do like it. It is nice because it means you can go through and you can be very selective about what you want. That's great, but you don't have to. It's not. I don't see that as something that is going to keep me from hanging out in the shop. I mean, I hang out at Buckhead Cigar. He doesn't carry everything of every line that he carries. He'll carry, well, this cigar is pretty good. We're going to carry this particular line of this particular size. Some cases he carries everything, and but in some others he's like, well, I carry what sells.
Yeah, in my case, I'm kind of in the minority because I don't smoke a lot of big ring stuff. This one particular shop carries mostly the larger sizes, the 60 rings, the Churchills, the Toro Extras, stuff like that. So for me, it kind of sucks a little bit because I go in there and I'm kind of walking around in circles, looking for something small because I don't smoke a lot of that big stuff.
And that's a good point. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'm not likely to buy many 6x60s. I was just kind of making the assumption that while they might carry that in some lines, they're going to carry smaller, more regular traditional sizes in others. So, yeah.
Well, in this case, it's one of those shops where the client base is looking for those larger cigars. I'm not one of the average customers, I guess. So it does work for him in the sense that he's got customers buying the stuff and he's got product moving. Just from my selection standpoint, it's kind of lacking.
Yeah, I can see that. And the truth is the 6x60, the really big, fat, dark cigars. That's what sells. I mean, we're definitely not the ordinary cats walking into that place, looking for our pencil thin cigars,
well, kind of on the same topic. Jerry was doing a review. I don't know whether it was a Weekend Smoker review, but he had mentioned that he's of the opinion that larger ring gauge cigars tend to have a flavor profile that seems a little watered down in comparison to the smaller ring gauge. What do you think about that? Do you think that the larger ring gauges tend to taste a little watered down?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it is kind of like, there's just too much water in the Kool-Aid, not enough sugar packets. So I don't know how to put that. In some cases, yeah. In other cases, it makes a rounder, more full or profile. It's instead of a couple of flavors that just kind of stick out. It's kind of like all of that works together, and it's kind of like a landscape instead of a couple of trees. You know what I mean? It can be a more complete thing. It really depends from cigar to cigar and the blend. I mean, because there's no way a super fat Toro is going to have the same flavor profile as it's not likely that it's going to have the same flavor profile as a Corona or Lancero or Lonsdale or whatever.
It was kind of interesting. For a long time, I liked the Robusto and the smaller Oliva Connecticut Reserves. They're just a cigar that I think are great with coffee. And then I was hanging out with Dave Wagner from Oliva one time, and he handed me this new Double Toro Connecticut. And this was right around the time they came out. And he says, give these a try, see if you like them. And they ended up sitting in my humidor for months. I'm not a 60 ring gauge smoker, but one day I picked one up and smoked it on a whim, and it really impressed me. The flavor profile was just it was just kind of a little mellower and a little less edgy, and I liked it a lot more than the Robusto that I typically smoke. So I was really impressed with that cigar. Other cigars, on the other hand, I smoked the big ring gauge, and it's just missing something. It doesn't pop like the Coronas or the Lanceros or things like that. So I guess it really does depend on the blend. And something may surprise you. I was really surprised by that Oliva, Connecticut. Was not expecting the cigar to be as good as it was.
That's the speaking of the Oliva, Connecticut. I experiment a good deal with the drink pairings myself, kind of informally, and I find that I used to smoke the heck out of those with Belgian ales or Belgian style ales. I found that was a really nice combination. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about, the Art Deco, the Grand Toro, I think it is. I think it might be 6x60. I don't remember. It might be 6x56. I think it's what it is. But it, for whatever reason, the way that all worked out with the extra leaves, and it's something about that. It's just a better cigar. Not saying that the others aren't good, but I mean that, and it just feels, I feel strange smoking it. Saying what I do about the big ring gauges, but I mean it's really the best blend in my opinion.
Well, we're seeing a lot of cigars that are hitting the marketplace at at that 6x60 format. What do you think is too big? Personally, I even find that the 60 is uncomfortable to smoke unless they have some sort of shape on the end, like a torpedo taper,
Yeah.
which makes them a little more comfortable. But how big is too big?
I think you're getting to be too big. After about, I think, 58. I mean, that's kind of stretching it. I think 60s really, pretty uncomfortable for me. Anything larger than that is just, I don't think there's, beyond smoking it on a whim. There's just, there's any way I'm going to do it. I guess if you punch the end of it and you just, you lightly kiss the end of the cigar when you're smoking, which disturbs the hell out of me actually thinking about that. But you can pull that off. But it really depends. I mean, yeah, if it's just unless it's some sort of figurado, unless there's some sort of taper or whatever, yeah, it's just not going to be practical. I'd like to, I'm actually kind of interested, or would be interested in seeing. The Java has a waif, the really thin one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in seeing one that's about yay big and just a little bit wider than the waif. It could be like 80, but it would be smokable. How crazy would that be? Just like a flattened 80 or something like that. Just see how ridiculously large it could be, but it would be smokable because you wouldn't have to, open your mouth up like a freaking alligator to smoke it. So that would be. I've been thinking about that because box press, you can get away with a lot with a box press, in terms of size and such. I mean, 56, 58 in a box press, if it's done right, if it's at all rectangular, it's really not that uncomfortable to smoke. But yeah, that's something I'm interested in seeing. I want somebody to do it, just so I can try it, just for the heck of it. I don't know if it would actually work or if anybody would actually buy it, but I kind of want to see that.
That's an interesting concept, and you're right. The shaped, or at least the box press shapes, they do seem a little more manageable, and they're not so uncomfortable and unwieldy.
Yeah. Should run out and trademark that or something. Go put out a patent. When is this going up again? Now, somebody run out there and do it. Anybody who likes the box press, just for me, you send it to me.
So how's your cigar going?
It's going pretty well. It's burning a little more even. I ashed it once just because I don't want to wear it. I'm liking it. I'm not paying as close attention to it as I would normally, but yeah, it's more the same. The kind of the chocolatey with some of the rich kind of syrupy type of body to it. I was getting a little bit of cedar, I think, earlier on, but I mean, it's something I really had to pay attention to, and it makes sense. It's sitting in cedar, right on the wrapper for 2 years. I mean, that's going to impart some flavor to it. How's yours?
It's good. It's got that nice chocolatey flavor, creamy texture, and come to think of it, it's kind of surprising. I'm not getting any cedar flavor, and considering how long it's been in this cedar sleeve, I'm really surprised I'm not tasting any cedar. Because a lot of times when you pull the cedar sleeve off of these cigars, that is the first thing you smell, and generally the first thing you taste when you light it up, because this cedar is making contact with the cigar. But in this case, I'm not noticing it at all.
Really?
Which is kind of...
I'm getting a little bit. That's all I can say. Now, I was keeping this in a probably the nicest humidor I've got, a Diamond Crown one. If you ever open it, it's almost a fetish of mine. I go into a cigar shop, if they have Diamond Crown humidors, I flip them open and smell the cedar, because the cedar is beautiful. So that may have imparted a little extra. The thing is if I leave a stick in the humidor naked in there for like a long period of time, it will become a cedar bomb. So it's a good and a bad thing I've found. I'm not sure how long you can get away with it. So, ooh, that reminds me, I've got some other stuff in there that probably are cedar bombs now. I mean, and I like cedar, so there's nothing wrong with that. But the roller may not have been intended for that to be a primary flavor. So.
I just recently started smoking the Essentia line again. One of the local shops brought in Polio and brought in Essentia with it. And that cigar is really a cedar bomb. Doesn't have any cedar wrap on it. I don't think there's any cedar in the Essentia box, but it just kind of blasts you with cedar. And like you, I love the smell of a humidor, so I really didn't mind it with that cigar.
Yeah, exactly. Which size do you like in that? I dig the smallest. I think it's the Corona, little Corona size in that. That's just, the thing is delicious.
I think it's I think it's the Corona Gorda that I've been smoking. He only brought in the one size, but I like it a lot, and been picking them up every time I go in.
It's fun that we talk about that, because I think the first Herfing Heads Jerry and I did was the Essentia by the OTL or Palio or whatever the official name is, but that's a really good smoke. I'm a fan for sure.
You see, of all of us, you seem to smoke the most variety. I don't know if it's just because the Atlanta area is like booming with cigars, new stuff, but what are you smoking that's interesting these days?
Well, the Monte Pascual, and the guy came around it's a couple shops carry it, all Brazilian Puro. It's like Mata Fina, Mata Norte, some sort of a blend, and it's the interesting thing about that is you kind of figure it would be fairly one-dimensional, but it evolves. It's not incredibly complex, profile for a cigar, but it's really interesting in the way it goes from it kind of goes from like a really sweet, creamy beginning. It transitions over into more of a, as I recall, more of a cedary and kind of a grassy flavor. And it's a very interesting thing. So I like that. I think that's good, and I want to support the guy because he's new to it all. And he's a young guy, and he's trying to get going with it. And it's a good smoke. It really is. It's one of my current favorites that I'm smoking a lot of. Let's see, other stuff. What am I smoking a lot of right now? I don't know. Well, you're watching me. What am I smoking a lot of?
I remember the review of the Monte Pascual, but I don't remember the price point. Is it, sort of middle of the road? Is it, double digits? Where does it fall?
It's surprisingly cheap. I think the MSRP on it runs from is like 7-ish on up to maybe 8 or 9, and they got a lot of smaller ring gauges in there. They got a ton of I don't have the complete list, but they got Coronas, and they've only got 2 sizes that I think with ring gauges bigger than like 54 or 52, and I think they got a Torpedo or Bellicoso, I forget which they call it, and they've got a Churchill, and I think both of those are mid-50s. And I think everything else, maybe a Robusto, everything else tends to be on a smaller ring gauge, which I also like a great deal. And they're really inexpensive.
Did you say he was local to Atlanta?
No, he's where's he out of? I forget where he said he was from, but he actually spent some time in Brazil. He was in town, just doing the grip and grin thing, with all the local carriers of it, and it's doing well. It's doing well. It's kind of reminds me of the Christoph when it first came out. It's one of those things. Once it gets to the shop, people are buying it. So, and it's kind of helps that it's got an interesting background to it being all Brazilian tobacco, because who smoked a Brazilian Puro? Nobody.
Well, was the Donna Flor completely Brazilian, or did that have other tobaccos in it?
See, I don't remember. With that, that might have been the last one. That might have been. I'm not 100% on that. And the whole thing confuses me because, of course, they had the issues, and there were 2 different entities saying that they were not a floor, and Yeah, I never really explored it because I was just confused. I mean, I just didn't know where to go with that. And he had some involvement with that particular line, but I think he's focusing purely on the Monte Pasquale. So uh, I think it's probably I don't want to say it's the best Brazilian, tobacco out there, but I mean, it's one of the better ones, if nothing else, because I'll probably think of some Brazilian cigar that, as a wrapper or whatever that I just really love or something like that. But it's very good. It's worth trying, and it's inexpensive.
How are how are the smaller brands doing? Because isn't Fuentes Cruzet relatively local? And I think you said a little while back that they folded. They're no longer in business.
Yeah, man, that's unfortunate. They were really nice people. I went to a ton of their events, rolled cigars with them, and all that sort of thing. And I don't know what happened. Yeah, they can feel free to comment on this if and when they see it, but I don't think that they made a go of it. I think that the economy or something stepped in. I don't have any background on it. Um, I haven't really reached out to them, I guess, but I mean, I'd heard that they weren't returning calls and such, and that's a good sign of them being out of business probably. So yeah.
How is Sean Williams doing with Premier Mundo? Because he took distribution back off of Los Blancos, right? And he's handling that in house now.
Yeah, he seems to be killing it right now. He's kind of the other extreme. His stuff is always expanding, always in new places, and I love the hell out of his cigars, actually, especially the Rosado Oscuro and what's Willie Herrera, yes, from El Titan de Bronze makes that Miami that he came out with, which I think is good, also, and that's doing really well. I think a lot of places, but I mean I don't know. It's going to be hard for him to top the Rosado Oscuro. That's a damn fine cigar. That's also I recommend that one a great deal. I recommend these two actually. If you have a chance, this is pretty good smoke. Since we're smoking this,
I don't get a chance to smoke any of Sean's stuff unless we're at a trade show. For whatever reason, I guess he's not in my area, and I just never see them. But I do. His that Rosado Oscuro is very good, and it's great with coffee.
that's great with just about anything. I gotta say, it's one of those things I smoked a lot of them to start off with, and I kind of forgot about them. I keep coming back to them because they're just good. I mean, they're just. The size doesn't even matter too much, but the Figurado is probably the best. But I kind of go back and forth between that and the other sizes too. It's a great smoke. We are giving him such a shout out right now.
He's a good guy. I like talking about Sean. Another name you mentioned was Willie Herrera. He's doing Jackie from Bonita Smoke Shop's House Blend. Have you had a chance to try it?
No, I haven't. Yeah, and I heard about that. I see them tweeting back and forth about him visiting and such. No, I haven't had it. I should try it because I generally like the stuff that he comes out with. So.
Yeah, I'm in the same position. I've been meaning to try it. I just haven't gotten around to placing that order. But I've been hearing a lot of good things about it, and I think because it's a house blend, it's reasonably priced, and Willie does some good stuff with El Titan de Bronze. So definitely something I want to try. Just haven't gotten around to doing it yet.
Yeah, I'll check it out at some point. I got to remember to do that. Alrighty, should we move on to another one or another question? Have we killed?
I was just kind of stringing it along because we did kind of touch on all the topics that I put aside.
Oh, did we really?
Yeah. Yeah, I just sort of like... I just sort of threaded them together as we were going, and yeah, we've exhausted all of our discussion topics, so now it's just kind of the banter session.
We could take turns beatboxing for the next 30 minutes or so. Man, we fine.
So how's your cigar doing?
That's good. It's still. I think it's a great thing. I've got. It's not a lot of difference. I mean, I still pick up a little bit of the cedar in it. I'm trying to differentiate between the tremendous keg of coffee I'm drinking and the flavors coming from this. But Um, yeah, it's doing really well. You know, every now and then it has little kind of off things where it kind of burns a little funky here, and then it corrects and comes back. So it's yeah, it's doing well. It's doing well. It's acceptable for sure.
You know, I'm getting a little bit of the cedar in the retrohale. It's kind of light, but it's definitely starting to come through. It's still got a nice creamy texture. The draw is a little bit stiff, but other than that, it's burning beautifully. It's, you know, nice and straight. The burn line is really thin. The ash is pretty strong. I mean, I was over here practically beating it on the ashtray to knock the ash off of it so it wouldn't fall on me. And you know, it's performing really well. So I'm definitely happy with it. I don't remember what I paid for it. You know, if I were to walk into a shop and see a $20 price tag on the Anejo, even even as it's performing now, I would kind of shy away from it. But you know, coming in at MSRP, I think it's a really good cigar.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, I mean, each size is going to be different, but the bigger they are, generally speaking, the more spendy they're going to be. So you can get the Añejo's experience, and they have similar ring gauges. I don't, I mean, I think they vary from like, let's see, I can look really quick. 46. They do get up to actually 50. So it's, you know, from the number 46, which is a 46, on up to the Reserva 55, which is a 55. So, you know, those numbers make sense.
So they're more along the lines of traditional sizes then.
Yeah, it's pretty much. Yeah, it's just a matter of remembering the numbers. And, you know, but what you said about the tight draw, I've noticed before from previous smoking. It does tend to draw a little firm right out of you know, kind of a 70% humidor. This being, you know, sitting around 65 for a good deal of time, the draw is just without flaw. It for some people it might almost be a little too easy, but for me, I mean, hey, nothing's too easy for me, so just that kind of guy.
You know, when it comes to cigars, I really prefer the cigars to be rather loose. You know, I just feel like I can dictate how the cigar smokes.
Like by women.
but I just kind of like being able to dictate how fast the cigar smokes, as opposed to really pulling on it to get any smoke out of it. So
and that ruins so many cigars. A little bit of a tight draw, and you just, you know, hammering the thing to keep it lit. I hate that. Do you ever run into a situation, and maybe it's from overdrawing or something like that? I used to every now and then run into it. I haven't recently, but you'd smoking a cigar. It's in a like 70%, 72%, whatever humidor right out of the shop, and it feels like you're getting kind of a steam bath in your palate. You know, it's like blasting hot steam at you.
Yeah.
It's just, you ever get that out of a cigar that's too humid? For a while, I wouldn't. Yeah. I kept everything in the mid-60s because I didn't like that. I didn't like the draw being too tight. And for the most part, I'm finding I'm kind of inching back up towards 70 on a lot of stuff. And as long as the humidity remains consistent, you give it some time, let it adjust. It's generally, you'd be surprised at how humid they can be and still draw all right. So it really depends, and burn okay too.
You know, I over the years, I think I've gotten tremendously lazy in how I maintain my cigars. Like way back when I set up all my coolers, I bought a whole bunch of beads, several pounds. I think I set one cooler up at 70 and all the others were 65. And now that they're all sort of full to capacity, and you know, now I'm finding that I'm putting things in like the humidipack bags and things like that, or tossing like a water pillow in a bag to sort of maintain. You know, I'm just kind of grabbing whatever's available most times, and you know, I'm not really paying too much attention to whether I'm picking up you know, a 65% Boveda pack or a 70% Boveda pack. And I've had pretty good luck. You know, I haven't had too many cigars that were really an issue. You know, some lines have a tendency to be problematic when they're a little wet, and if I know that cigars, it may be problematic, I might shift it to something else. But for the most part, you know, my cigars are just whatever I pick up.
Is what? I'm sorry, what?
It's just whatever I can pick up at the cigar shop, whether it's, you know, 65, 70% Boveda packs, just whatever's convenient.
I thought the camera froze for a second. I'm like, whoa, I should have been paying attention. No, I am the same way. I have been a little lazy about it. I'm focusing more on consistency than specific levels of humidity because I find as long as the tobacco in the cigar is consistently humidified, it's all running the same level of humidity. It's usually going to burn well in most cigars. The problem I run into is if I smoke something too soon out of a shipping box, or somebody's carrying something around their shirt pocket, and it's a hot event, so they got a bunch of boob sweat, and the lower end is all wet, or the top end's all wet, and the other half's all dry, and it just, yeah, that's when I run into issues. I mean, I run into dry issues. I run into issues of keeping it lit. I mean, it's consistency. That seems to be the key. I mean, more than anything else, this. I mean, there probably is a magic level of humidity. Like the Oliva Serie V, isn't it supposed to be stored at a higher humidity? They recommend it, don't they? I thought they recommended a specifically higher level of humidity for the Serie V. At least when it first came out. Than most other things.
I seem to remember 70 or 72, maybe? Something like that.
I heard crazy stuff. And maybe it was just people, talking on the forum, and you never know, on the forum who's doing what and whatever. But I heard people talking about up to like 75%. Just sounds like madness to me. But, if it draws, I mean, and, it doesn't taste like getting a jet of hot steam in your mouth. Hey, more power to you.
And a lot of times it's not just the draw; it's keeping the cigar burning that can become an issue when they get too wet.
Yeah, that too. Sometimes those wrappers, I mean, if they're really thick, you gotta store them a little drier. I mean, for them to burn properly. So you mentioned you're using Boveda packets more often now?
Yeah, like if I order something from, say, Mike, he'll package them up with like little Boveda packs, and I'll recycle them, put them in little plastic bags that I buy. You go to a cigar shop, you buy 5 cigars, they stick them in that heavy Ziploc bag. I'll reuse that Ziploc bag, toss in the Boveda pack, and I'm good to go. Or if I'm at a shop and I know I'm running low on humidification devices, I might pick up just a humidipack or a Boveda pack, whatever they've got. I may even pick up one of those water pillows if need be.
I found, and I'm kind of taking a shine to them, that they seem to be, along the lines of consistency, they seem to be the best at consistently putting out humidity and maintaining it, which surprises me a little bit. I've had some trouble with beads lately where they seem like they dump the humidity really quick. So I've been transitioning towards that, and I find that's pretty good. I've actually found, and I was looking around online, that you can recharge Boveda packs if you do it right. Hold on a second. I actually have a little mini lab down here. Kind of keep it sun. And what I do, and this is interesting. This is going to be great for cheapskates like Mike, being night rid. I've got a Tupperware thing, a lid. I put water in the bottom. I put a little I don't know, some sort of a plate or whatever, enough to keep it out of the water. And you close that up, and this thing was just bone dry. Now it's just squishy. And I find that they work. And you're not supposed to. You're supposed to just keep buying them, but I find that they work for at least a couple of recharges. So I've been doing that. I thought that was kind of neat. Some guy, I think he wrote, I don't know where he is, but he had some other system where he was using a bag and a paper clip or something like that. And I'm like, no, a little bit of sunlight to get the humidity up, you get a little bit of heat, and it circulates. And you recharge them and they work. I mean, it's a good product. I know they don't recommend you do that, but hey, it's for the big ones especially. It's like they're $4 a pop. Well, maybe use it a couple of times. It may diminish in quality. At some point you're going to probably need to throw them out. But I mean, I think that's one of the coolest tips, one of the coolest little MacGyver-esque cigar hack deals I've seen in a while. So I've been doing that, and I've been throwing them. So I've been kind of building up my supply of them. I just throw them in everything. I still have beads, but I just throw those in, various places. And when I see they're dry, I go recharge them. So I think it's kind of a neat thing. I don't know if you've ever tried that. Have you?
No, but that's genius. I mean, I can't tell you how many I've had that have started to get dry and hard, and I've thrown them out. I mean, how dry can they get before you're kind of past the point of no return?
Well, I experimented with the first couple I did, and they were brick hard. They were, lost them or left them in a humidor, found them just hard as a rock. There's just because they're not, if you keep it even in a properly humidified humidor, they're not going to recharge in there. There's just not enough humidity. I think you need like something in excess of 80, 90% humidity, or probably 100% humidity. You don't want to get them wet. You don't want to actually soak them or anything. That's a bad idea. I think you do that, and you're basically going to ruin it. But I've seen them rock hard and come back and be decent. I don't know how that affects the lifespan. If they may be less accurate after each recharge, but they're close, and that's the point. You're not going to have perfect exact humidity throughout a humidor. Typically, I mean, there's going to be little variations. It's going to be a little more humid where the humidifier or your beads or whatever are going to be a little drier other places, and that's just how it is. But close enough.
Yeah,
and still seemingly pretty consistent.
Well, a lot of times when I use those, they're not like my sole source of humidification. So if they're off a little bit, it shouldn't lead to any major issues. So, I mean, I think that's genius.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that. So there you go. That's your frugal tip for the day from me. I thought that was great. I mean, because I like the concept of humidipacks. Like I like the concept of beads. The problem with the humidipacks is I'm like with air filters and everything else. I hate the things you have to keep buying and buying over again. You use it once, throw it away. Use it once, throw it away. That sort of thing. On the next video, I'm going to discover how to reuse a disposable camera. That would be cool too. I bet you can. I bet you somebody out there's figured out how to do it.
That was the big appeal to those water pillows that I get every now and again. When they dry out, you just dunk them in water, and they suck up the water, and you're good to go. They're recharged. You shake them off, and you're rinse and reuse. But the downfall of the Boveda packs was they dried out, and you had to throw them out. So that's great.
I know. Doesn't that make you feel stupid? All those humidipacks you threw away. I mean, Boveda's, whatever. Whoever is out there is just loving it. But yeah, of course, not recommended. They're gonna, if the sales rep or owner or something sees this and said, before you leave a comment, calling us jerks. We understand. Not recommended. May not be optimal, but it's kind of neat. It's kind of useful. It might save some people some money. And I think in the end, I'm buying way more of them than I ever did before. I didn't buy them at all. Now, because I can recharge them, I'm buying them more often. And I'm building up a little humidipack army that I can just throw around and humidify everything. So,
well, what actually got me started using those was when we did the Twitter Brother Leaf Cocktail Hour in New Orleans. When we got those humidipack bags. All the stuff I was throwing in the bags, and then as the bags were being depleted, I was throwing stuff that I was buying in the bags, and I just found an incredible way to keep cigars in a small space. So that was what started this whole thing of me buying the devices.
And that works so well. I think that one of them is only just now starting to dry out a little bit. And I gotta go cycle it out. I threw an extra one in there to try to be double sure that I was maintaining humidity and everything, and it's done an amazing job. I gotta be honest. It's impressive. It shouldn't have lasted this long, but the one needs to charge just now. And I had there were two in there, so it's probably not. And it's a plastic deal, so you don't have the woods absorbing the water and it leaking out. It's zipped up, so it's. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, as much as I like humidors, any type of airtight container. Plastic container, as long as you get the smell out, I mean there's no better way for maintaining real consistency in the humidity of the environment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love humidors, I love the cedar and all that. I think it's a great thing. That's fantastic. But what I'm saying is, I'm certain that if people knew this and that it's good for say 2-3 recharges or whatever, that's a sales point. I think so. Like I said. It's not recommended by them, but please don't hate us. In fact, we are accepting advertising.
You know, yeah, you had
Listen,
mentioned the lifespan of those bags, and you know, I think they're advertised as lasting 30 days, and I did the same thing as you. I tossed another Boveda pack in my or Humidipack or whatever it is inside of that bag, and it's still going strong. So
yeah,
it's a great device.
months. You know, I mean, we're not talking a month. We're talking like, you know, IPCPR last year. We're talking 9 months or something like that. And that's and the you know those big ones are the bomb. The little ones are nice too. They go well in little travel humidors, I found, because that's another source of a lot of potential inconsistency in the cigars environment. But yeah, I throw a couple of those in now. I mean, now I'm erring on the side of too many in a given thing, just to maintain, just to ensure the consistency, because that's my big hang up right now is the consistency on not, you know, particular percentage of humidity or whatever.
Well, what are you using for a travel humidor? I remember, don't you have one of the big Zycar cases that that carry like 20 plus cigars, or do you also use the smaller ones?
I have a oh, I forgot, I got a big one. I need to double check that the humidipack in that's working properly. I have one that does like 80 or some just ridiculous number that I picked up somewhere. I think I got it from Cigar Man, actually. Pretty sure I got it from Cigar Man back in the day. I also have a 15, and a lot of people like to give out. This is another interesting thing I found. A lot of people like to give out you go to an event, like went to the, what was it, not Cigar Fest, but the other one.
The Expo.
The Expo, there we go. Sorry, famous. The Cigar Expo. And they gave, we got a fiver, and I've been carrying that around forever. I find, though, I think the best size is the size that I don't see as often given out in events. I don't see it as often for sale, I don't think. But there's a 10 count. The 15 is too big. The 5 is great, but it's like, I'd like to have another cigar or two, The 10 is just ideal. So, but I carry those around. I have a couple of all sizes except the 10, which seems to be really the size I want, but it's the one I don't have.
I actually have a 10. I don't carry it very often just because it's kind of bulky. But if I'm running out, just for the day, I usually just grab one of the small one that we got from Cigar Expo.
Yeah.
5 slots. But I mean, they're kind of small to be putting like a Boveda pack in. Do you just use the internal humidification device, or do you have something crafty going on to manage humidity?
I'm using the little Boveda humidipack deals. I throw a couple of them in, and as long as you don't have, you're not carrying a bunch of 6x60s, there you got the wiggle room in there. So I throw a couple of them in there, not the big ones. The big ones, I think, I'm always worried that they're just going to rupture when I close it because they're so thick when they're fully charged. So I put the little ones in there, and they seem to do a pretty good job. I did do, almost all of them come with a little green floral foam, and that does the job. But the thing is that just dumps. I mean, it's like dumping a bucket of water in there. I mean, it leaves the foam as quickly as it possibly can, and you wind up with cigars that are like, 100% humidity on one side, and maybe slightly lower on the other, and they draw terribly, or you just put something in. So if you're using the same level of humidity in whatever humidor you have, and use these packs at the same level, ideally you're taking it from one environment to another that's the same. It's going to be consistent throughout, ideally, but there's no way of ensuring that with the floral foam. So that's where you run into cigars that are burning, really cockeyed, or they go, they burn fine for about halfway, and then you can't burn them, or vice versa, or whatever. So
usually, what I'll do is I'll make sure I load it up with 2 smaller cigars so that I have room at the bottom, and then I'll just lay a water pillow in there.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't even think about taking one of the small humidipacks and just laying it on top. That would definitely work. The one thing I don't like about those units, the floral foam, is that I can't charge it and then leave. Because what happens if I add some water to the floral foam unit and then close the lid, when I open it again, the cellophane of the cigar directly under it is literally wet. Actually, there's water on the cellophane. So I don't like putting naked cigars in there, especially not in the middle slot. And I've gotten crafty with those. I've popped that thing out and cut the foam away and put one of the small RH pucks from Cigar Me in there. It's too big; it kind of crushes the cigar. But I've tried all different things in those things. But the water pillow or the Velveeta pack seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, and the thing with the water pillow, I liked those before I started screwing around. Well, before I realized that I could recharge the humidipack. I use that interchangeably. Velveeta does humidipack, right? Is that the same thing?
I'm not sure, but I think so.
I'm using it interchangeably. I'm hoping I'm not doing something wrong here, but I never really thought too much about it. But yeah, with the pillows, I like those because they were rechargeable, but they suffer from some of the same trouble that the floral foam does. I think that they dump the humidity. And also, I found that if you're using the same one I'm using that has a little baggie in it, I found the baggie sticks together. They get moldy. The bag sticks together because of the humidity, and then you don't have any of it escaping. So you wind up with moldy, and then ones that just aren't putting out it's a great idea, but I just find that practically speaking, I think it's good for sending off shipments and such. You mailing cigars to somebody, you throw one in. I think that's a good idea, but I think that it's not the best in terms of just maintaining, kind of a regular humidity, being guaranteeing. It just, yeah, I like the idea, and I think it would work better if you didn't put it in the little bag, but I'm not sure if that would wind up soaking anything it came in contact with. That would be my concern.
I've never actually opened one up and looked inside to check for mold. That's something I should probably start doing, because usually there's actually the holes in the outer bag, so I just kind of dunk the whole thing in water, pull it back out, shake it off, and just let it go. But
really?
yeah, it's probably a good idea to open it up and look inside for mold, because you're right, it's like perfect breeding ground for mold to develop.
I've also run into a case where if I let one dry out, he doesn't seem to accept water too well. I mean, I took the little pillow out. I put first of all, they get discolored, which kind of makes me worried. I'm not necessarily sure it's mold, and I only used distilled water in it. So that makes me nervous. But if they dried too much and I put them, soaked them, because they're supposed to expand and just get really fat. Some of them don't do it. Some of them don't recharge too well. That's the other thing I've noticed. And between that and concerns about any kind of mold or anything like that, just I shied away from them. I used them a lot for a while, and they are good, and especially for shipments, I think, because they hold a lot of humidity. But I don't know. I'm kind of siding with the humidipacks.
Cigar Expo kind of came up, and Jerry did Texas Cigar Fest recently. Does Atlanta have any big cigar happenings going on, or are there any planned?
Well, you would think we would, because we have like 80, high 70s, low 80s number of shops in the area. But I think that's also a problem because of that. You have just little different groups of people hang out in different shops. We don't have anything consistently. Certain shops like Tobacco World up in Marietta, they're probably, somebody's going to be mad at me, but if I say this, but I think they're probably the biggest. I think they have the biggest humidor, or they're kind of the biggest shop in general. One of those, and they have a bunch of people come in. They always have Rocky Patel coming in. They've got, I've seen Eddie Ortega there. Just a bunch of different personalities from the cigar world show up for an annual birthday event. So that's kind of the closest thing we have to anything like that. So we've got a ton of shops here, but you have a ton of festivals there. So it's kind of an interesting way. And I think it makes sense, because a lot of people are, out in covered wagon country or whatever, kind of BFE of Pennsylvania, and they get to a cigar shop once in a blue moon. And so, there's kind of a call for people they're willing to make the trip for one big, huge ass thing. So it kind of makes sense to me, because we don't really need it. We have perps, we have small in-shop events every weekend here. I mean, there's almost always something going on. I say that thinking that I actually don't have one this weekend. I probably just don't know about it. I'm sure we do somewhere.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. It's just the shops in this general area are kind of spread out. and you've got to get in your car and drive a little while to get to them. So it does make sense as to why we have these big festivals. We have the two, Cigar Fest and Cigar Expo, and even just general store events. We don't seem to have very many of them. I don't know that maybe they don't draw enough. In a lot of shops, they kind of spread them out, so there might be 2 months between events. So actually seeing a manufacturer at a local shop in this area is it's a rarity. I don't think I've ever seen a manufacturer at a local shop outside of Cigars International, Famous, or if the shop owner is a friend. For instance, Top Shelf Cigars, the owner, Jim, is a friend of Jose Blanco. So once a year, Jose Blanco might stop in, and that's about the only time you're going to see a manufacturer. So I guess we don't have that, that dense cluster of population and cigar buying power to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's it. Because you have a shortage of actual proper events, people are more likely to, haul ass and head over there. And the other thing, in I think your tax situation with cigars, and then as a result having the big catalogs based in your state, I think that also kind of is part of it. You've got a concentration of two. You've got at least two, or maybe more, big catalog companies that are kind of nearby. I know that they're easy driving, so I visited both when I was there. So they're going to have they're going to have competing events, and they've got the deep pockets to pull it off, and you have one, then you got to have the other, because they're like, well, these guys are doing it, we got to do it too,
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm really surprised that we don't see Holtz doing a big event, because they are another big distributor in the state, and if I don't know where they rank in terms of sales, but I would think they're in kind of like the top 5. And you really don't see much from them. They do have manufacturers come by, but it's an hour or better drive to Philly, so I don't tend to go very often.
And when I think about it, that that area, in addition to having the big catalogs there, I mean, it's also a lot closer to other big areas. You get the whole Northeast there. People are gonna be willing to drive down, and especially you've got New York, where you can't hardly smoke anywhere. So I mean, people are gonna come down to stuff like that. And whereas I mean, people most of the time aren't gonna drive up from Florida to attend an event in Atlanta. So it's just, we're a little more spread out down here. Not Pennsylvania, I did drive through it, so it is pretty spread out. But I think that area isn't too far from some bigger population centers. And you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you've got Cigars International and Famous, which aren't very far from one another, and they're both relatively close to New Jersey and New York. So
Exactly.
there's a definite draw, or not so much a draw, but definitely an easier drive than across the state.
And you've got, I mean, Hayward's got the fridge full of wine coolers too. So I mean, there's that. I mean, that's kind of a big attraction. Get some Bartle and James action happening. Oh, God damn, man! People from miles around.
Well, they're getting a new building, so I'm curious if Hayward's getting his own office, is he going to have like the wine cooler fridge? What's going to go in there? I'm going to have to see if I can get a behind the scenes tour of the office space and check in on him.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd like to see each shelf and what he selects. The the grape watermelon flavors. I mean, I understand those work well with some of their house blends. That's fantastic.
I'm going to get there, and I'm going to see Hayward sitting standing at the tables with his arms crossed, shaking his head no, as I come off the bus.
I would love to go up to that again. It's a shame that it's such a haul, and I just, don't want to fly up there. But that's a good time. I can't speak to the other one. You guys have done the other one, but the expo, or is it being called the expo this year, or is it something else?
No, I think they're calling it the Cigarnival this year.
Cigarnival. Ah, okay. Another name for me to forget pretty easily. But, I don't know why Expo's so hard. It's freaking 4 letters, you know. But anyway, I always keep Cigar Fest, and I don't know why. But it's definitely worth going to. I mean, I don't remember what the price of admission is, but it's a good time. Um, that's the thing. Because we don't have the shortage of events down here. It's hard to get somebody to pay to attend an event. I mean, back to Tobacco World, when they have their annual party, they have food, they have drinks, they have all sorts of neat stuff, and to try to cut down on some of the mooching, people that would just show up, hang out, smoke samples, and eat their food. They actually they start putting in a fee to get in. It's like $10 or something like that, but you get a $10 credit. The idea is we're gonna, ensure that people aren't just coming to mooch; they're actually going to buy. They're going to hang out. They're going to, support the shop. In that, there was some blowback from that even. I mean, obviously from the weasels, but, there was a little bit. So, people are spoiled. Nobody pays to attend events around here.
Ashton did the same thing with their Taste of Excellence tour up in this area. In order to get in, you had to pay $10, and then you in turn got like a $10 gift card to the cigar shop, which it didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I guess it does ensure that if you come, you are spending money. You're not just going to hang out and, in this case, drink scotch, eat chocolate samples, and smoke Ashton samples.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, in the end say of things, the event is the event, but it's the purpose of it isn't just to entertain you. It is to help them sell some cigars. So, I mean, and with any of those things, if they know you and you're a regular customer, I'm sure, you don't have to worry as much about it, but or they don't worry as much about it. But yeah, so I mean, the fact that we have tons of events, they're all free. We have actually had some big herfs. We have every couple of years, or not every couple of years, but whenever there's we got a fellow named Bill in the area. Whenever there's a full moon on a weekend, it's Friday, Saturday, or sometimes Sunday, he has a full moon herf. So a couple of times each year, they're typically some of those, and that's a big deal. I mean, you buy raffle tickets for that, and you give cigars to the troops. So there is kind of a fee for that, but it's really not. It's something that people overlook because there's just the raffle's crazy, just nuts. There's tons of stuff being given away. It's just unbelievable. The guy does it for a guy that just hangs out, smokes, he's a retired guy. He puts together a pretty mean event, and it's if you're in the Atlanta area and you haven't been to one of those, you need to check that out. It's a number of them have definitely been worth driving in from out of state, and some people have, I think.
Well, with the number of events that you have, do you see the same specials over and over again, or do you see a variety of things? For us, when there's an event, it's generally the same thing regardless of the store. Buy 3 get 1 free, with very little variation.
Yeah, people add on to it. Some people do raffles. It really depends on the vendor. Sometimes they go crazy if you buy a box, but that seems to be about the standard. Buy 3 get 1 free. I mean, that's pretty much. I haven't been to a lot of events where that wasn't the case. I've seen some that's buy 2 get 1 free, but that's pretty rare. Well, speaking of getting free smokes, what was it? Nestor Miranda Day is coming up again. Do they do that? Do you have a participating shop up there for that?
Well,
you walk in, you buy anything, and Nestor Miranda is going to give you one of his cigars. I think it's an Art Deco or Robusto, I think, or a coffee drink. It might be, but
was it 2 years ago that they did the first one where they gave away the Dano, or was that? Because I don't remember one last year, but I remember I remember getting a Dano from my local shop, and I thought it was a great concept. It seemed to go over really well. But this last time, just like with the Aurora 107, it looks like they only have certain retailers that are going to be carrying it. Besides, like that first time around, it seemed like any shop that carried Nestor Miranda got the stuff. This time around, it seems like only certified retailers, and I don't have one really close, so I'm probably not going to get in on the free Nestor Miranda this year.
Yeah, because I call it, I kind of like a weasel day. I go on a tour day weasel where I just go from shop to shop, buy a cigar, get one. One year I was kind of doing, I didn't really have an entourage doing it, but we kind of compared notes after the fact of places we went. So, but I think you're right. It wasn't last year because last year the Dano 2010 came out. The original Dano, I believe, was 2009, and I think that's when it was. So, yeah, I don't think that and I'm a little surprised that they're doing it again. I mean, the idea makes sense. It definitely gets cigars in the hands of people who might not smoke it otherwise. But I wasn't sure they really needed to, because I mean that kind of I think they got their cigars in a lot of hands, got people's attention, so maybe they're trying to do it again. I kind of figured it was a one-time deal, because I mean, really, you're just giving away a ton of cigars. I mean, I know it probably will help sales, but I'm not sure how much. That's got to be a little expensive.
Yeah, and when they did that first one, that Dano is not a small cigar. That's a lot of tobacco that they were giving away. And it was amazing when that cigar was handed to me. I was like, wow, they're giving this away, and I don't even have to buy an Nestor Miranda. I can buy whatever I want. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, that was pretty impressive. I don't think it's quite as large this time. I don't think they're giving away the Grand Toro Art Deco. I believe it's the Art Deco. I think it's the Art Deco coffee break size, I believe, is what they're giving out. But still, it's a free cigar, and it's a good cigar. I'm a fan of the Art Deco. So.
That, and it gets people out to local cigar shops, which is always a big plus.
Well, in that, and if you're in an area like me and you decide to do a Tour de Weasel, you probably hit not only the shop you normally hit, but you may hit some other ones, and go that way. I may or may not do it. I do feel kind of weaselly doing it, but it is kind of fun.
Did you get in on the La Gloria Serie N day? I guess Mike was telling me about it. I guess he got a coupon out of Cigar Aficionado, and then he turned that coupon in for a free sample. I don't know if you could print it out online, or if you could only get it in the magazine. But I remember reading about it, but I didn't participate in it.
Yeah, you know what? I think I got that issue of CA, and it was a coupon. There might have been places to get it online, but I guess I kind of got in on it because they sent me a bunch, and so I think they might have been looking for a review with it, and if so, sorry guys, I wound up giving it out to people. So I think I did one better. I'm like, here's a Serie N, try this. They sent me a bunch, and I'm not sure if it's because we already had a review or what it was. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the cigar, I'll be honest with you, so might have worked out to their benefit, me giving them out. But yeah, I guess I was kind of involved in it, and I know myself and another guy or two in the area, we wanted to smoke them out during the Serie N day, and it was a cool concept. I like the idea. It's getting a bunch of people. I mean, that's a really good way to get a bunch of people to smoke your cigars, and I knew ahead of time that I'm not the biggest fan of them, and I still smoked one. So
yeah, I didn't participate. I wanted to listen in on the live stream that they did. I just didn't have time to.
I didn't get it on the live stream. I didn't get it on. Yeah, I put it out there that we were smoking it, and it was when everybody else was. But we were in the shop and hanging out, and there was a TV on, and like, Well,
it's kind of. I guess I equate like General and Altadis sort of like I do Anheuser-Busch. They're coming out with a product, a mass-produced product, to sort of work for the masses, and like Budweiser, it's a decent product, but it's not something that I go out looking for. Like Illusion or Tatawahe, they're catering more towards like the craft beer kind of a crowd, and that's something that'll draw me out. So when a new General or Altadis product comes out, it's something that's kind of intriguing, but it's not something that's going to get me to hop in my car and drive to a shop and look for it. Yeah,
usually not. They've got a few things out there that are pretty good. Yeah, I think that they are, because they sell so many, they have to try to appeal to the biggest percentage they can. So, but they're making, speaking in general, they're making some good strides. I mean, I kind of like the punch cigars in general. The Uppercut, I wasn't as keen on when it came out, but it's not bad. I mean, that was kind of a good way. I like the is it the La Excepcion that they come out with every now and then? That's one of the better ones. And generally, the Punch Champion. I even the newest Rare Corojo. I smoked I smoked one of those the other night, and I thought it wasn't bad. I mean, it tasted very punchy. It's like a punch, and I generally like punch, so it's not an Illusion, it's not a Tanawai, it's not a Don Pepin Garcia, that sort of thing. Which Pepin's getting pretty big, so he's kind of growing out of the boutique riches, so to speak. So
I like the Artisano line, the original, the Miami that came out. I thought was a great cigar from General. The newer one that I don't really remember the name, and even if I did, I'm sure I would just butcher it. But it's got a two-tone wrapper. It's
Tabacceros. Artisanos did Tabacceros or something like that.
Yeah, it's
probably butchered it too.
It's got like a secondary wrapper down the bottom, and it's not like a barber pole. It's like this much wrapper is one type of wrapper, and then above it you've got the rest. And I thought that was pretty good too. I like the other Artisano better, but that was a very interesting product that came out from General, and something that I was interested in and actually went out and bought and looked for.
That's a cool concept, and I definitely like the when they did the Obelisco. Did you ever see that? I think they gave this one in the
in
Twitter cocktail hour deal, triangular pyramid, box press pyramid. That was pretty. That's a cool concept. The cigar itself didn't do a lot for me, but it was pretty cool. Though. I got to say, I look forward to smoking that thing because it was. And I like that they're definitely trying. They're definitely looking for ways to to appeal to people who are looking for something special. So, but it is what it is. They also have to appeal to a much larger audience. So now the Cru Royale, the Magnuno, that's a good smoke. I really like that one. So I mean, they nailed it there. So that's that and La Excepcion and some of the punches. I mean, that's some of the best stuff they've got going.
When we were in New Orleans, I remember we were walking from the trade show to Don Leoncio, and I think all of us lit up a Monte Cristo, the new Monte Cristo that came out of the show, and everyone seemed to like that too. So they're definitely moving in a great direction. I like where they're going.
Well, that's Monte Cristo. That's Altadis, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's Altadis.
Yeah, and for them, since we're kind of patting the big guys on the back right now, I'm a fan of the the Monte Cristo, the 15th anniversary. A little spendy, but it's a really good smoke, and I believe they make it in a Lancero size, which I appreciate. And the Frankinese is a really good smoke as well. So they've got some good stuff too. These big guys, they may kind of be the Budweiser cigars, but they're trying. They're doing their thing with coming out with stuff that's boutique-ish. But
9 times out of 10 they're affordable. They're not pushing that boutique price point of $8, $9, $10, $11.
Yeah, indeed. This is the part of the show where we have the uncomfortable silence.
Yeah. So it's been a little while since we talked about the cigars. How's yours going, or haven't you been able to focus on it too much? I know I haven't been able to really key in on mine.
No, it seems like it's slightly unfair to the smoke. So, as a reason, we're not really calling this. We're calling this Herf and Heads, not a cigar review. It's going well. I think my palate is a little fried at this point, just from a little over exuberance last night and such. But and I'm smoking a little fast because you get talking to people and you're puff. But it's good. I mean, I'm liking it. And it's the reason I keep buying these. I like them. When I find them reasonably priced, they're worth smoking. They're fun, interesting cigar. They're great for trades for sure. I mean, because everybody's looking for them, and I got a bunch of them. So it's going well. I mean, it's burning evenly too. Yeah, it looks nice. It's solid. Yeah, no complaints at all.
Yeah, I mean, mine's burning really well. It's performing great. Lots of smoke. Nice and dense. Got a creamy texture. I'm getting a little bit more of that cedar flavor through the sinus. And, just all in all, I'm enjoying it. I like these a bit more than the Opus X. And, for the same
Same.
reason, I think they're a little more fun. And ultimately, I just think it makes for a better or more fun cigar.
With the caveat, I agree with you. For example, I had the Opus Petite Lancero that came out. I think was that earlier this year that it came out, or last year? Whenever that came out, it was a recent deal. And ordinarily, I've found that the Opus do the best and taste the best after they've been aging for a couple of years. I've had some that were just actually really surprisingly good. Compared to the similar line immediately off the shelf, which strikes me as more power and less complexity, less involvement flavor wise. I found that particular Opus right off the shelf was actually was dynamite. It was really it was really on. Aside from experiences like that and smoking aged Opus, I generally like the Añejos better. I think the Añejos, I don't think they age quite as well as the Opus, but the Opus I think starts from a spot where it typically needs to be aged. So I think the Añejos start from a tastier spot than the Opus typically do. Of course, we are going to get so much hate comments for this, I hope.
Well, where does the Opus X Pussycat come in? Is that the one you're talking about, or is that a larger size?
No, the Pussycat was a little tiny one. It's similar to the size of the Perfection No. 5, like a little. I forget what it was. It was really small. It was like, I don't remember for sure, but it was like 4 7/8 by 44, something like that. It was, unfortunately with those, I smoked those right off, and I remember thinking they were pretty good. I really can't remember, to be honest. But guaranteed, the Petite Lancero that I had that was just released earlier this year, or late last year, whenever it was, that topped it hands down. And I also smoked recently, since the Perfection No. 5 was in the batch that came out recently. I smoked an aged one of those, and that No. 5, it's also like a Petite Corona size. That's a really good smoke. I mean, especially after it's been sitting there. And I haven't smoked the new ones yet. I just kind of smoked the old one, put the new one aside, and let it sit for a while, and it was really good. It was really good. If you have the time to wait, I recommend it.
I don't smoke a lot of the larger Opus. I tend to gravitate toward the smaller ones. Do you notice much of a change in flavor between the smaller, like Perfection No. 5 and the largest, the A that they have? I think the A is the largest.
I've never had the A. I'm in the same boat when I buy them. I typically buy the smaller sizes, just in part because they're cheaper, but in part because, I mean, it's kind of the size I like more. I mean, I really like the Perfection No. 5 size. I think it was the No. 4. I think had the cedar on it, and that was really good. I had one of those that was like 2 or 3 years old, and that was fantastic. So I usually buy the smaller sizes in those. So I can't really compare them size wise. I do have. I've got a couple of the more recent ones that came out that were rather large, almost Churchill size. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of them, but yeah, it's something I'll check out. There's definitely from people who are just really huge fans of Opus, there are definitely varieties. There's definitely from what they're saying, some blends, some sizes that are much better than others. Some are more potent. So I would expect it to be a little different, honestly, but I say that without having tried them, just because, again, they're tough to find, and they're often marked up. So I buy the sizes I like. I know I like anyway.
Do you smoke much of the Fuente? Like the harder to find, the rarer stuff, like the between the lines and things like that.
I've had the between the lines, and I gotta say it wasn't my thing. It was kind of neat, and I don't think I've ever seen it for sale for less than $20, which might actually be close to MSRP. And it was fun, but I mean, it was fun from a standpoint of burning this cool little figurado barber bowl. I wasn't as into the flavor. I don't know if it was the one I had, or maybe it ages well. I really haven't gotten into that. I have some old chili peppers around somewhere that I'll probably smoke at some point. I even have an Opus Shark that somebody gave me. Don't ask; it's not for sale. I only have one, and I haven't gotten around to smoking that either. So there's some of that that I have that I haven't gotten to. But on the topic of Fuente, the biggest surprise I've had recently from them is I picked up somewhere along the way, probably at that full moon Herfing, it was probably in the raffle, some of those giant cannones. I'm not sure how to pronounce. It's like 25 miles by 50 ring gauge or whatever it is. They're just huge. But I'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Those are actually very good smokes. Those really are. They have been aging for a while, just kind of because I haven't ever had time to burn them, but. And had some time at was hanging out at the shop, and I'm like, what the hell? I got this in my locker here, and I'm just gonna light it up and see how it is. And I was like, this is really good. I mean, this is that this is kind of what I'm looking for when I'm burning just your normal Fuente appliance. Like, this is really good. It surprised me. It struck me as, looking at it, you would expect, okay, this is something large for people on the golf course that aren't paying attention. Or people that just don't know what they know the name, but they don't really know much, and they're just like, hey, it's a huge cigar, but it's really good. It's surprisingly good, and I mention it, and people are like, yeah, you're right. That is a really good smoke, and I definitely recommend it if you've got like 4 hours to burn. It's probably closer to 3, but man.
Well, speaking of the the more novelty sizes, do you smoke much of that stuff? I mean, I've got Serie V Culebra. When we were in New Orleans, we smoked the Abe's.
Oh yeah,
Abe's Culebra, yeah. But that was my only Culebra experience.
I had for a while some Partagas Culebras that I would only. I mean, a Culebra is only good when you're smoking with other people, unless you like trying to smoke 3 cigars at once. In my opinion. I get those when I have an opportunity to, and I never smoke them except when there's going to be when we've had people come in from out of town that are visiting, or just an unusually large group of people around. I'd break it out and say, all right, guys, let's burn one of these, and so I've had the La Flor Dominicana Culebra that has 3 different the wrappers on it. It was good. The sad part about that is because they're all different smokes. You're always wondering. Well, mine was good, but I wonder how those other ones are. So that's the one Culebra I'd consider lighting, starting, and smoking through all 3 of them myself, if you can find them. They're really tough to find. So I've had the Partagas ones. I did actually buy, and this is weird, but one shop locally they had the Illusion 2/3 or 2/3, the 23. Some people call it. I don't know what. How you say it, but they sold off one of the sticks. So the Culebra in the box was loose, but there were 2 loose ones. So I think I bought one of those one time just for the smoke it. And that actually I found, and I think I've heard this before, had a rather firm draw, which kind of messed up the experience for me. I think that would probably benefit from the lower humidities. But for the most part, the really interesting, kind of unusual shapes like that, I don't smoke them that often. The Culebra's, I think, a cigar that, it's fun to share with people. Padilla's, it's not a Culebra, but it's an interesting kind of quirky stick. The Habano, Burberry, Figurado, or whatever he's calling it now. The one I call the Gringo stick.
I think it's the Artisan now.
Yeah, he makes it for gringos because he might, I think he told me that most real cigar smokers would smoke them in, and it's got all the wrappers on it. It's a really good smoke. So when I find those, I will smoke those just for fun because they taste good and they look cool. So I don't often smoke them at home. It's one of those things where hey, I'm out, people smoking interesting things. I'm going to show off a little bit. So it's kind of good for that. And it's really good. I think Jerry reviewed it forever ago, and he really liked it, and I've really liked it. So,
I think I have one floating around in my humidor. I think you might have sent it to me. I'm gonna have to dig through and find that.
I've got they started boxing those up from whichever catalog sells it the most. They have 5-pack boxes that I bought the last time, and I picked up a few of those, and I thought they were, yeah. So I tried to keep some of those around, but I can't tell you the last time I smoked one.
Speaking of Padilla, last I heard, he sold his lounge in Cayocho. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't. I haven't. But that was the subject of one of those novelty posts I did, the Taris. I think wasn't he the one I awarded most predicted to fail without failing, or something like that? Or I like the guy, and we talk crap back and forth a little bit on Twitter. Hopefully, he doesn't take it personally or anything like that. If you're seeing this, I'm just messing with you, man. I keep hearing stuff like that. I keep hearing this and that, and he's having trouble. This is going to happen. That's going to happen, and I haven't heard that, but I don't know if any of the rumors are true. It's a nice place, but it might make financial sense for him to do it. I don't know the guy's business. I don't really know his finances. I just know the rumors. So it sounds like the rumors I've heard, but the rumors I've heard haven't always been very accurate, because the guy's still making cigars.
Yeah, if it's true, I don't know if the price was right or whether he just needed to get rid of the space, but he seems to be doing pretty well. Studio Tobacco is doing a cigar for him. Anytime you open up the CI catalog, there's always some sort of micro batch or something going on. He's definitely a presence in the cigar industry, and his product is readily available.
And he's coming out with new stuff. I picked up a couple of new things he came out with, and I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but I know there was I forget what it was. It was like a Maduro version, and there was like a Habano or a natural version. I picked up one of each. I haven't tried either one of them. So he's coming out with new stuff. I know I think at one point I talked to him, probably when I was doing a review, or I forget, he just emailed out of the blue, and he gave me a bunch of information about cigars that were upcoming, Artemis and things like that. So he's still coming out with stuff.
One of the things about him is I think he's got some of the most elegant bands in the business. I mean, they're just beautiful packaging, and he does all the work himself, which is even more amazing.
Yeah, I think the one of the many rumors circulating about the guy is that he was at one point a graphic artist or something like that, and I completely believe it, because his stuff, his bands are they're fantastic, a lot of them, and and apparently he's doing it himself. I don't have actual confirmation of that, but yeah, he doesn't seem to be quite the powerhouse that he was a few years ago, but he's always around, and he's making new stuff. So I like seeing that. I wish the guy well, always. So
speaking of the Studio Tobacco making a cigar for him, have you tried any of the new Studio Tobacco stuff that came out? Has the tour rolled through Atlanta? I haven't really been keeping up with where it's been.
I think it may have, and I missed it. So no, I haven't had any of the new stuff at all. I mean, I couldn't tell you anything about any of it. I know, well, you were on some sort of a panel or advisory committee or something like that, and they sent you a bunch of stuff. I know you put out some posts on it and such. What are your thoughts on that? How is that going? I don't know anything about the cigars, to be honest. I know there was a Lancero, and there's a bunch of stuff people were out, really out to get. There's like a 5-pack or box thing or special edition, but
yeah, if you bought,
I think you came through and I missed it.
Yeah, if you bought a box, you got this 5-pack sampler. Before the tour started, they sent the advisory board members this sampler. Of the 5 cigars, I didn't really care for 2 of them, both of which were Maduros. But the whole concept is kind of interesting, because one of the things I've been saying about Oliva for quite some time is, they seem like a very conservative company. You don't see them coming out with a lot of new stuff, and they're kind of slow to the market. When they do come out with the V or the V Maduro, it does make a huge splash, and everyone's sort of looking for it. But they do seem to be kind of slow with the releases. With Studio Tobacco being sort of the creative arm of the company, they're taking a very aggressive move, and they're pumping out new product, and they're very exciting and interesting. So the whole concept is really interesting. That your core Oliva followers that want that traditional conservative sort of company have that option, but the younger, more hip crowd, if you will, has Studio Tobacco for lots of new releases and that fast paced sort of action.
Oh, and the people that chase special editions and such, or you gave them something there. But yeah, I think it's generally a good thing. Yeah, they've got. That's the thing. They seem to do incredibly well, and they don't have to do a lot of advertising or a lot of events or anything. They're in every humidor, it seems. Going back to the question about what should be in every humidor, Olivas should be in every humidor. I think they're reasonably priced. They're pretty conservative, good value, good flavor, that sort of thing, and they haven't really needed to, but I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe the most recent craze of like just tons of everybody's coming out with special editions and limited editions and such makes them kind of puts pressure on them to address that trend. Just in case it winds up becoming a significant portion of the market. I'm not sure how much it is really, but
Well, it does seem to give them that edge where, because you get a lot of consumers that get upset when they see a company come out with a lot of limited edition stuff that's hard to find or very expensive. And it kind of puts them in a position where, they're doing it, but they're not doing it because Oliva isn't. It's more the Studio Tobacco arm that's taking advantage of that craze. So it seems like it's great on their part anyway.
No, I think it's a good thing. I think it's not bad. I mean, whatever you think about, the small stuff like that, the kind of, brush, little tiny micro batches and such rushing out there. I mean, there's a market for it. I think it's a good thing. And because Oliva's behind it, there's a really good chance, and I think it's the whole point of it, that something that really hits and really does well is going to wind up being something that's readily available, most likely.
Well, what type of consumer are you? Do you sort of jump in there and go searching out limited edition stuff, or are you more along the lines of like how I am, where I just kind of lay back and if it becomes available, I get it. If not, I don't
wait for the women to drop it in your lap and light it up for you. I used to chase things down. Part of it's a function of how many cigars I have. I just have way too many. The wife always gives me hell about it. And so I don't usually chase down special editions or limited editions, but sometimes like I used to. I do at times simply because, well, people are going to want to see reviews, and that's going to generate page views and such. So I do it for that purpose. If I weren't writing reviews, I would do pretty much. I'd probably fall into a case of if it shows up in the local humidor, the local cigar shop, I'll try it. And if not, it doesn't. So I've seen there's been some stuff that I would have liked to have tried that have come and gone that I never got a hold of, and it's has kind of wish I would have found some, but at the same time, the industry's tough. There's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, for everything new and cool that comes along, there's a lot of established stuff that's easy to buy, and I already know I like, so I can always go get that. And, oh well, if I miss something,
Well, how much buying are you doing locally as compared to online? Because for a little while you were buying quite a bit online, I think. Are you sort of sticking more locally, because of all the events and stuff you have going on, or is that 23% Georgia tax a real burden?
It is kind of a pain. I mean, you definitely feel it when I'm writing up the reviews. I usually quote MSRP, that's the real MSRP, before any sort of local add-on taxes. So I've definitely noticed whenever I'm writing this stuff up, I'm usually like, yeah, well, that's what it would be if we didn't have 23% thrown on top of it. I think the wholesale level or whatever. I don't buy very much online. It's kind of dangerous. You buy one thing and you want to buy a little bit more, it's such a good deal on a box. You get a box, and then you got oh crap, I got a box, where I'm going to put all this. So I and then there's the whole concept of supporting your local shop. I think that, my local shop being Buckhead Cigar would do fine if I wasn't in there buying constantly. But for the most part, I go in there and buy from him, or if I go stop at anytime I visit a cigar shop, I always wind up buying cigars. And I usually try to keep myself to, try to limit it to, 5 or so. But every now and then somebody's running a deal and they're running the same problem. But I try to buy stuff locally as much as I can. Yeah, I can smoke at home, but it's nice to have a shop.
I'm kind of in the same situation. I don't buy much online these days. I have been doing a little bit of purchasing lately. I came across a pretty good deal on Cigar Monster, so I bought a couple of 5-packs there. And then, a couple of months ago, I bought 2 boxes from CI when Pinar del Rio, the old stuff, was on sale. But outside of that, if I can't get it locally, I like to just give Mike a call and tell him, hey, send me something, because the price is good and I like dealing with him. And on top of that, he's a local shop, so I'm not my local shop, but I'm supporting a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, that's and you have. You got some leeway in it because I heard that one of your locals, the shop that used to hang out at quite a bit, closed down. So if you don't really have a local shop and you got to drive 20, 30 minutes or something to get to one, at that point you're kind of like, well, I don't really have a local guy to support, and that they don't really have a local lounge to hang at very often. So at that point, who can blame you for buying them online? But calling somebody up, a brick and mortar, somebody you like, and supporting them, that's always a good thing. And I found that especially if Mike knows you, he'll give you a good deal. I know that I've seen him. He boxes up a lot of cigars. He has a lot of people, getting in touch with him to pick stuff up, and he's always boxing things up. And a lot of times, if he knows the person, he throws in a few extra things. Here's something else, that I have, maybe they'll like, and they'll give them that, and maybe they'll come back and buy some more. I think that's how he got you into the Buckhead edition, the Dano Buckhead edition, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit, and I got a 5-pack of his Buckhead Special Selection, which is really interesting because I don't really care for the Nestor Miranda Special Selection, but for whatever reason, the one with the Buckhead band on it is like head over heels better. I think the Nestor Miranda Special Selection was missing something. It was a decent cigar, but for whatever it is, Mike's Buckhead version has what the other one was missing, and I like it quite a bit.
My understanding is what it has is a little extra Ligero in it, so the blend is a little bit different. And it seems to be pretty popular. I know he smokes the heck out of the Buckhead Dano, so, but yeah, that's how he does it. So, if you have a shop that takes you, you got a pack of lunch to get to, I can understand buying online. And, there's stuff that Mike doesn't carry, and every now and then, I feel like picking it up, and yeah, I might order something online occasionally. But it's mostly local because I've got a bunch of friends. A lot of the shop owners I consider friends, so most of the time I can find something, whatever I'm looking for, I can find it at one of the other shops if Mike doesn't carry it. So I wind up doing that. Sure, you wind up spending a little bit more money, but that also keeps me, I guess in a way, that kind of keeps me from buying too many. I always have space issues with it. It's always have too many cigars. I've got some baggies right now that are sitting on top of the humidor that's got humidipacks in them. It's overflow. I don't know where to put them. So yeah.
Well, how much smoking are you doing at home versus Buckhead? Because it's really close. And does that lead to you smoking a large variety, or do you find yourself sort of falling into a groove and smoking the same stuff more often?
It really depends because I do wind up smoking some stuff more often. Some of the things he carries that I really like, I wind up smoking a little more often. But he does get there's always new stuff coming in, which is another thing I think is good for a shop to do, to always have new stuff coming in, even if it's not a lot. So a lot of times I'll find myself smoking a bunch of whatever's new coming in. I don't know. I vary it up. I'm not usually one that smokes a lot of the same cigar, especially not in the same day. Every now and then, well, if I've won something, or I buy a box or whatever, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm saving this and that for review, and it's easy to get at. Sometimes I'll go in and grab some of the same cigar and smoke it a couple times the same day. But I tend to be experimental with it. I'm the way with cigars that I am with say microbrews, craft beers. I want to see. There's always, there's stuff I like that I will go back to, but I always try to mix in something new or something I haven't had in a while. In anything that any given day that I'm smoking. I don't know how much I smoke at home and how much I smoke at the shop. It really varies. It depends on what time I get there. It depends on how busy I am at home. So I don't know, man. I really don't have a figure. It's up and down. I mean, you'd be some days it's like, wow, I'm a chimney, and some days it's like, wow, I didn't hardly smoke anything today.
Yeah, I'm probably good for about one a day, depending on what I've got going on. If I'm working from home, I try to sneak one in the morning, before my wife gets up, and then I might get one in the evening on those days when I'm working from home. But when I go to the shop, I'm usually going to sit down for a little while, and I might have 3 or 4, and sometimes you just kind of just get in the groove, and you have that great conversation, and next thing you know, the shop owner's telling you, "Hey, look, I'm closing up in 10 minutes," and I've been sitting there for 6 hours, and I've burned 5 or 6 cigars.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, it depends on how long I'm at the shop. I have the benefit of one of the really smart things I think that Mike did, in addition to the placement of the shop and everything. There's a lot of really wise decisions that went into where he's at. But one of the great things he does is he doesn't close up at 7 or 8 o'clock like a lot of shops do. He's open until midnight. And being the night owl that I am, I'll head over sometimes as late as 10. And, I don't always have time to smoke more than 1, maybe 2 cigars, but, there's that. So, I mean, I may wind up actually smoking more at home than I do there, but I'm usually good for a couple a day. I don't know what the real figure is. It really depends on how late I stay up. And if I start getting into the beer, sometimes it's a little higher. Sometimes the night gets kind of late. Bottles stack up. The bands stack up.
Well, that's great. Just like you said, in my shops in my area, they close up 7, 8, and I think the latest is 9 o'clock on like a Friday night. And if I had a place that was relatively close, walking distance would be perfect. But if there was a shop that was open until midnight, that'd be especially on a weekend, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, oh yeah. I wonder how much longer we need to give him the shout out, talk about him to get him advertised with us. What do you think?
Well, I do kind of feel indebted to him a little bit. When I told you I ordered a box from him, and when I was talking to him, he says, "Hey, look, I guess he was down to the last of it." And he said, I don't have an unopened box. This box is open. All of them are there, but the box is open. That's fine. I'm gonna open the box anyway. So along with the box, there was an extra 3 sticks thrown in. 3 of the I bought a box of the La Traviata Maduro, and I guess maybe he had 3 laying in the bottom of an empty box, so they were included in the purchase price. So it was, things like that really go sort of over the top, and I appreciate that kind of stuff.
Well, he's got the customer service thing nailed. He's a character, and he also takes care of people. I mean, I don't. Aside from just jerks that walk in and don't follow the rules or just act up. I mean, nobody leaves that place unhappy. He makes sure everybody's taken care of. I can't complain. I mean, he takes care of me really well. So there's no complaints there. And I know he's doing little things like, and he didn't even have to do it, but I think he's part of the whole process behind the smoking a JJ for JJ. So he's involved in that in some way. I think he's like one of the either the main supplier of the cigars or one of the main suppliers of the cigars. I think he's working on a website for that. So I mean, he does little things like that, and then little things like that matter. It's not just the cigars you have, but it's, you know, the service and all that other stuff. The little things you make people come back, and he does that really well. He's got that nailed.
You know, I think he's a prime example of breaking the mold of your typical cigar shop and going and just going above and beyond what is expected, and you know, just doing those little extras to draw in a different customer base, and you know, it goes a long way.
And hell, I mean, people come into town, he goes buck wild. You know, the Vance will have food, and we'll go out to eat, and I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you know, yeah, you got to come down and visit sometime. Let him give you the Buckhead cigar treatment.
What is that? Just cigars, Waffle House cigars, Waffle House.
That's part of it. And sometimes it's you know, one of the local pizza shops that does a killer. We call it pizza, where is more you know, animal carnage on top of it than anything else. It's deep with animal. There's a little bit of crust, there's some cheese and some sauce, but it's just crazy. I mean, things like that. Sometimes with, you know, even like I know when Jerry's come in, we wound up going over to New York Prime. You know, it's just nuts. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. He goes all out. But you know, the thing is anybody that comes in and visits, they're gonna go to Buckhead Cigar. They're gonna hang out there. They're gonna buy cigars from him. Because the guy, you know, you can't help but do it. I mean, the guy treats you so well, and you know, you'd feel bad if you went anywhere else. And you know, I feel bad for the other guys that own shops that I like. I mean, I don't get over there, but I mean, I don't know. I'd almost feel guilty not going over to Mike's shop. So,
all right, well, my cigar's getting kind of short, so let's talk a little bit about the cigar before we wrap up. How's yours going? A little, you know, more of the same, or are you getting any change up going on?
I think I'm getting a little more earthy qualities to it. The little bit I've been paying attention to it, not quite as syrupy, and I've been smoking it a little faster. I think there's a little bit sharper cedar going on in it. Still very good. Still, you know, a cigar I enjoy smoking from time to time. Definitely worth having some. I'm not that you could ever buy them. I don't know if I'd go out and buy a box of them, but you know, I'm definitely going to keep some around. I try to anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's a little more bitey through the sinus on the tip of the tongue. You know, it's got a nice heavy, dense smoke. Coats the palate well. It's probably, you know, medium to full in terms of body. Same in terms of flavor intensity. And you know, it's performed really well. I haven't had a single burn problem or anything along those lines. And you know, the draw is a little stiff, but I seem to remember this particular line sort of running with that trend. They do seem to be a little stiff, but you know, it's easily manageable. And you know, if you can find them for MSRP, I think they're a really good buy. You know, when you start seeing them marked up to $20, I'd be a bit hesitant, but you know, for MSRP, I think it's a good buy.
This particular size, I think, is definitely going to be somewhere in the teens. Online, it looks like what was this? The 48. So it's in the neighborhood of probably $13-14, I would guess. So it's going to be a little more expensive than your average thing, but most shops you go into, you're only going to be able to buy two of them, you know, per visit. So I mean, that's a no-brainer. You see them, go buy two of them. I mean, whatever size is available. And the Shark is fun, but the other ones are good too. You know, everybody wants the Shark. Everybody's looking for the Shark because it's such a quirky cigar. But you're not doing yourself, you know, wrong by picking up any of them. Anything that's available, you just go pick that up. So
I think it's safe to say this one gets that happy Brian Hewitt thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely gets one of those. with the smoke rolling out of my mouth slowly. Yeah, it gets one of those.
Well, Brian, it's been fun. You know, I really miss doing these. These videos tend to get long, but you know, this is one of the features of Stogie Review that I really miss, and it's tough getting everyone together to do them. But you know, I hope everyone enjoys them as much as I do sitting down and doing them.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's you know, it's an online herb, you know, poorly attended, only 2 people, but you know, it's good for that. It's a lot of fun, and I mean, there's nothing to say we got to post all this at once. I think that is just too much hot man action for any viewer. So maybe we'll split this one up or something like that. But I That's just disturbing. Nobody's gonna watch it now. They see that. I'm like, oh my god, it's the wrong kind of site.
Well, I'm putting Hot Man Action in the title somewhere or in the write up.
We'll rename the site Smoking Bears or something like that.
Well, I think that closes it up. So if you've sat through this entire thing, thank you very much. Don't forget to hit up the comment section and, touch base on what we've talked about. Give us some more topics to talk about next time. And until next time, happy smoking. Take it easy, all that good stuff. Wild finger pointing and
crazy finger pointing. We'll keep it mostly G-rated. No birds or anything like that. See ya.